Much has been said about the codices in what is now called Mesoamerica. Therefore, let's talk about the Boturini Codex. So let's go. This is history. Few people know the codices or can distinguish one from another. For this reason, here we will talk about one of the most famous, the so-called Boturini Codex. Thus, in this first video, we will discuss its context, where it comes from, why it is called that, and what it is about. Its existence is not in doubt, being one of the few codices still in Mexico. It is known by various names, such as the Boturini Codex, the Strip of Pilgrimage, or the Migration Strip. It is stored in the National Museum of Anthropology, and although we can appreciate it in the museum's Mexican room, it is a replica, as the original is stored in the museum's library. Regarding the different names it is identified by, none of them are its original denomination. Its real name will never be known. But why does it have these names? The document passed through many hands and collections over almost 500 years, starting from the possible time of its creation, speculated to be between 1530 and 1540. Considering that Tenochtitlan fell in 1521. Therefore, it would have been created 10 or 20 years after the fall of the Mexica Empire. Whatever, its creation date is spaced through several private collections that are difficult to trace. Only when an Italian-born European named Lorenzo Boturini Benaducci, a historian, antiquarian, chronicler of the indigenous cultures of the New Spain, and promoter of the cult of the Virgin of Guadalupe, arrived on the continent in 1735. Do we find a certain record? This was because this Italian was fascinated by pre-Hispanic cultures and began acquiring every vestige and pre-Hispanic document he could find. Thus, he created the so-called Indian Museum, and in his collection was our codex, which Boturini catalogued as follows. A map Indian paper folded like a piece of cloth, and it extends like a strip. We will say it represents about 23 pages. It depicts the capture of the Mexicans from the island of Aztlan, and their arrival on the continent of New Spain, with the mentions they made in each place and the years they stayed there, indicated in the characters. And finally, the words that followed in the service of Cocoxtli, king of Calhuacan. However, this codex and his collection were confiscated in 1743 for violating the royal patronage regulation for raising money. He was imprisoned and deported to Spain. His collection remained in New Spain and later in independent Mexico. Once confiscated, it was deposited in various places until its current location in the National Museum of Anthropology. And of course, since Boturini was its owner, that is why it is called the Boturini Codex. Now, as we said, the document is not pre-Hispanic, although it retained the classic pre-Hispanic styles of the codices. Although Boturini said it had 23 sheds, today we have 22, in the form of a folding screen. In addition, it was made with materials typical of pre-Hispanic cultures. Unlike, for example, Another codex also influenced by Europeans called the Mendoza or Mendocino Codex, which was already made with European paper in book form. The author or authors of this codex are also unknown, as there is no record of who made it. Regarding its style, it has a mixture of the original Tlaquilo style and European influence. It is also theorized that it is a copy of an older codex, which no longer exists today. Some believe it was not completed, as unlike other surviving pre-Hispanic codices, which are perfectly colored. This one shows only the black outlines of the figures. It is also considered that either it was not completed by its creator, or other sheds were removed from it. Now, why is it considered a codex with Spanish influence? This is due to the following aspects. It shows, in the sheets, there are annotations in Spanish, like the ones we see here. Folds were drawn on the tilmas of various characters, which do not correspond to the style of pre-Hispanic Tlaquilos. The human characters throughout the codex have Abrams, which do not appear in pre-Hispanic codices, and if they do appear, they are of types. The Abrams in the Boturini Codex being more European in style. There is a painted ahuehuete tree on shed number 3, whose crown also responds more to the European than the pre-Hispanic style. Comparing trees painted in the pre-Hispanic codices, we can see the difference between them and this one. Also, on shed 15, we have the name of character who is said to have died, whose name, lived, is that of a wall. But this type of wall is typical in Europeans and not of pre-Hispanic groups. Now, what does this codex talk about? Boturini's explaining gives us a preview of its content. In it, on sheet number 1, the place of origin of the Aztecs, later called Mexicas, appears. Throughout the 21 sheets of the codex, it referred to the supposed places they traveled from Aztlan, their place of origin, to at least the arrival of Culhuacan, located in this part. It is necessary to make a clarification that even the INA erroneously points out about the codex. To this day, no additional sheet to the 22 we have shown has been found. However, there are false sheets of the codex, which do not exist. Curiously, one of them is disseminated by the INA itself, as we see on the social network X, where on its social network this representation appears. It is false, as the original does not have the sign of the eagle on a cactus, the sign premised by Huitzilopochtli. And yes, maybe the original, or if extra sheets were removed, they did have the premised sign, but in the original, the migration or pilgrimage, as others called it, does not have that sign, as it does appear in the Mendoza Codex. Therefore, we can only imagine the colors of the codex and what other data the original had. However, it is a unique piece that adds to other sources and chronicles that speak of the possible Aztecs and later Mexica migration from the north to the center of present-day Mexico. As well, as part of their mythical characters, their way of counting the years, and some events between mythical and historical that the Mexicas experience on their journey. Of course, if you want to know about the content of this codex and what the second part of this video, let us know in the comments, which regardless of the name it is given today, is part of our history and our roots.